All right. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, New Pragmatic. It's Friday. Big day here. Big day. We got feedback loop obviously happening like right now. Here in just a little bit at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll have portfolio potluck, and super excited for that. But as we get started out of the gate here, we've got some projects to look at this morning from students. Coast to coast, or actually lots of coasts. So let's go ahead and get this started. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and away we go. As you can see, there is a new video forthcoming. It's not finished yet. Lots of edits going on. Still have still got 5 minutes to edit there. Anyway, so let's find our way back over here, and let's go ahead and start with Melanie's project. Melanie has really distilled down her much longer desktop case study into a mobile design now. And the one thing I wanted to mention here is I've seen a lot of chatter here and there about long case studies and the purpose of them, and whether you should just focus on the visuals. And really, it always comes down to the type of work that you're doing. I've seen a lot of visual designers poo-poo the idea of writing much about their work, and frankly, you're not doing your research. So if you're not doing your research, there's not a lot to talk about other than the visuals that you made. Melanie's project here, though, I think is pretty good in that this is not a large chunk of text that just kind of drones on down the page. There's quite a bit of work here that very it's very it's chopped up. It's very bit-sized bits of information. Here you have the data, and then what was done to fix the issue. You get an idea of her. Really, this is like an affinity map. Here, quotes from user testing, studying the competition, some whiteboarding, A/B test. A/B tests are really that's where you show a lot of individual, small, minute pieces of growth. Like we adjusted this, we adjusted that. I think this is really well constructed. I think the worst thing that you could do is put a case study out there that was just all text. You really weren't jumping into the specific things that you did in each iteration, which each of these is some sort of iteration, moving like personalized return, free cancellation, receipt UI optimization, moving all those elements forward. I think it's really well. I think this case study is really well constructed, so I wouldn't worry about the length. And actually, it looks like you've done a good job over here. That's probably just a minor adjustment there, but you've done a good job here shrinking this down. One thing I want to see here is handy. It's almost, part of me wants it to be like handy, designed for growth, rather than just designing for growth, because I want to get up here very early what it is that we're looking at and talking about. So I might consider adding that handy. It works in all instances, but as we come down, you've got your role and duration, problem framing. So here you're kind of setting up how you went about doing this, research and ideation. This gets a little small on the mobile device, but it's really kind of hard to reform. If I did anything here, what I might do is I might pull this up to the top, but it's hard to then reshape the direction of these, particularly. I'm just going to copy this off to the side. Um, you've got elements here that make it harder to simply reformat it. But like if we did this, I won't mess with that too much. But if we did this and then like worked with the arrow, okay, so those arrows are grouped. You'd have to like sort out like how. Yeah, I can't do that. Like some sort of combination like this that would also work for this combination. And some of it might be just reforming. You can actually you can make this in CSS Grid, just move this up in mobile and get rid of the arrow, so you're indicating that, oh, you start with a Google box and then these things happen. So something to keep in mind there for mobile, because I do think that this wants to be a little larger. If you can imagine it like this instead, it's just a little easier to see those to see what's actually happening between the two. Because you're going 3 across instead of 4 across, and that makes all the difference in being able to visually see what's happening. Understanding drop off. I like the simplification here. You got rid of the background images. I'm not even sure the background images are doing a ton here, because I can't really see what's happening there. So that's something to keep in mind. This is virtually unreadable on mobile, so I don't necessarily know if it's helping. Down to 1 quote is fine. Yeah, you simplified this away from this giant wave of pages. I'm still not sure if it's reading. I might just say link to the stuff. Here's what you tested. What if customers didn't have to pay? This is another. It's 4 wide, and then you've got some. I've got to construct this. Let's see here. Just trying to get. Yeah, I've got to reconstruct this in such a way that it's easier to see. So I think that trying to get to that. Trying to get away from this 4 wide into maybe 3 would be helpful. On the backlog, so here's an update. It's interesting that you got rid of pretty much all the A/B testing. So if we come up here, like, my question here is, all right, you got rid of the A/B testing. Can we get a link to it? Like, a link. Can I get a link to the A/B testing assets so I can take a look at them? Yeah, but overall, I think you've really soaked this thing up, and that's why it's so dramatically shorter on mobile than it is on desktop. And there is some value to that. There's part of me that wonders if your overall cleanup on like competitive analysis isn't something we should take a look at. Overall, you could do the logos and then do like some of the screens. Right now, you've just got so many screens. I'm not sure if we're really seeing the work. Also interesting, like these screens, these multi-step booking, they stair-step down to indicate like it's something that happens in an order. The job details, it seems like that should do the same sort of stair-step. So it's either this one's right or this one's right, and I can't determine which. And you switch directions on literally all of them. So Amazon's logo, by the way, is probably, well, it's constrained, but it's probably more, well, it's wider. Um, but regardless of that, I would I would clean this up to make sure that all of this is in align. Like I want these pages to be top aligned. Um, I want them to stair step down in the same fashion. I think you can do it. It's just right now it's just kind of all over the place. So I would clean that up. But overall, I really like the fact that you've gone through and you've assigned your design system to this. I think is great, and I don't feel like these are too heavy, which is always the thing that you're going for. You're going can this case study be light enough to feel like it's an evolving story? Can I? And I think one of the things that you've done best here is you've really got into the A/B testing over here. That's why I'm a little concerned that the A/B testing shrunk down so much, and I really want to get a link to those additional assets minimum. But that's my 2 cents on it, Melanie. I think overall you're doing really well, and yeah, full speed ahead. I think, and I owe you a code snippet this afternoon, much like I did with Rebecca. I'm providing code snippets to get us started with the coding. This to me is clear. There's so many things about this that are clear. Hey, let's build this in CSS Grid. So I'm looking forward to seeing Melanie take it in that direction. Eve submitted her work for her user flow, and I want to show like Eve went above and beyond. You can barely see this right now because there's so much work in here. I'm going to zoom in on version 1 of what she built, and what we should see right away is what essentially is a sitemap for all the different aspects of Eve's Fresh Market product. And Eve obviously is working through the UX program right now. So like Melanie's in career mode, Eve is working through the UX program. And these are all the considerations and options that Eve has built into the first version of her sitemap. Now, the prompt, though, is to build user flows. And when we talk about user flows, she's got a user story here. I want to view I want to view the meal plans pricing. So I go to the meal plans page. I could choose a plan. I choose a serving size, 1, 2, 3, and I can select the meals. And then I come over here and I select the meals. And in this instance over here, she's like offering an option to only see the poultry dishes, and choose meat, that's poultry, and then I get down here and now I can get into nutrition and facts, and then I get over here to the cart, and I get to the cart and I can review the order. What's interesting here is she wants to view the pricing, and I'm guessing that at some point in here we would have pricing. I'm not necessarily seeing it. I'm guessing it rides along with choose plan, like you're choosing a plan, or maybe it alters with meal. Regardless, the content isn't important. It's the flow at this particular point. But unfortunately, this is a really hard thing for people to come in and see what Eve is doing. It's really dense. It's hard to really see where we're supposed to go. However, I had Eve break this apart, and now, so it says, I want to know more. I want to know how the meal service works. So we go to the home page, we scroll down to read blurb on how it works, click on more details, click on learn more for more details. If you don't want to do it, you end. If you do, you go to the FAQ page, and it's meal ordering, about how it works, delivery, and then there's the how it works page. If we go over, I want to find menu without any effort. I want to see menu. So home page, menu on nav bar, menu page, meals, subs, salads, desserts, and then end. I want to easily see where to sign up. Home page, sign up on nav bar, sign up page, choose sign up method, and she's still going through and like carrying out all the options that are available to her for signing up. Here we have, I want to be able to use service without signing up, check out as guest. So she's in her cart, choose checkout options. She can sign in. She can continue if she's already logged into the account, continue as guest. So then she has to individually enter delivery, contact, billing, review and pay for order, thank you, and copy your receipt. But then, and this is something we talked about, I encouraged her to include a way to save that account. So if they've already entered in like their delivery address and their payment methods and all that, nobody wants to enter that stuff in twice. So at the end, a savvy e-commerce platform will say, hey, you've already entered in all your stuff. Why don't you just throw a password on this, and we'll make an account. The question I have here is, so I've got delivery or pickup information, contact information for order. Down here, I have choose sign up method, use email and as username, and create password. So I'm guessing that you would already have that email collected maybe here, and then now you're just saying add a password and you're good to go. So one missing step here might be some sort of confirmation, like confirm account is set up, and then like it says end. End is interesting. It's like, I wonder what does end mean? Where do I dump them off at? And you're going to eventually have to solve for this anyway, because when you build your prototype and they go through this process, like if they say, no, I don't want to check out, I don't want to create an account, like it ends that, yes, it is the end, but where does it place them? What, like, does it take them to the home page? Does it take them to the order page? Like there's something that happens there, and it isn't just end. So as much as I would like to say that we're done with this flow, where they go is still murky. And that's completely fine, by the way. It is okay to say that, hey, I don't necessarily know right now, but I do think that when you share your flows with your team, you need to be able to answer that question, because ultimately you build the flow and then you get to the last step, and it's like, okay, so I've confirmed that this has happened, or they've said no, where do I put them? And you're going to have to say homepage, show them what they ordered, like something. All right, let's continue looking through this. I want to select the pickup time. So this is select checkout process. Want it, choose to option to receive, so you can do carry out, delivery, curbside pickup. You can enter in that information, complete payment process, and then the dreaded end. I really think this is like a confirmation page, or it's like, hey, your order's going to be ready in 2 hours, or your order is going to be ready in 29 minutes and 33 seconds, and it's ticking down. Like whatever that is, that's what goes in the end spot that we have not identified at this point. I want to be able to tip the courier online. So we select checkout option, enter delivery or pickup information, enter contact information for order, choose tip amount, choose payment method, thank you, and copy a receipt. Now see, this is different than end. All right, this one you have a clear thought of what you would like to happen. There is a unhappy trail here that says I place order and it's the credit card's declined. Like what happens? Do you like loop back up to credit card? So those are considerations to think about. Like what are the unhappy paths? And in some places you have unhappy paths. I want to say that was more like over here. But in most of these other scenarios, I don't see a lot of unhappy paths. So that's something to think about. But my goodness, Eve, look at all the work that Eve has got here. This is all basically broken out of this one sitemap that was put together. A ton of great work here, Eve. Again, if we can think more about, I want to see the meal orders of the week, employee dashboard, click the orders nav bar, go to the orders page. So this is like somebody who's monitoring on the admin side. But this has a clear ending. You're going to the orders page. This one does not. I don't know where end is supposed to reside, and end appears a lot. So that's the big thing that we need to work through, Eve. Is like, where do they go? Like, yes, they go through and they're working through the platform, and I can see the thought process of doing many of these tasks. What I can't envision is where they go when they finish. And sometimes you've got it, like orders page. Most of the time you do not. So that's really where, statistics page. So here you got a statistics page. And here, end. That's a lot of people just ending up on that end page. So let's point out where we're dumping them off at. But by and large, I really think that you've done a great job, aside from determining where they finish. So let's fix that. And I think once you fix that, you've done. So previously, it's like, where am I starting? And actually, it's not for you. It's not been where am I starting. For other students, it's been where am I starting. For you, it's where am I ending. Okay. I can't. And part of this is coming back from, when you pulled these apart, like the login page took you to the account page, and that was the end. Okay. So I need you to you probably already have the answers. They are just over here in the sitemap. Okay. So with that in mind, let's move forward. I think you're well on your way, Eve. Just again, now we're in slight tweaks. Let's go ahead and close Melanie's. Let's close this for Eve. Okay, we're going to take a look at Silicandy. And Silicandy is coming on now. Let's see here. So this is the business, and I need to hide away this grid for a second. Okay, so here's the business for Silicandy. Here's the competition. Here's the value prop. Okay, so this is getting interesting. Obviously, there's some spacing issues here, and this again is where I'd probably come in and make a shape out of this and pull it in as a component, because like there's this inconsistencies. You'll clean this up in code. I guarantee, like this will all be cleaned up when you get into code. But right now it's a bit of a mess, mainly because it's not coded. And I'm trying to get the baseline grid to work. All right, and I would do the same thing over here. Whoops. Yeah. Just get your alignment together. Nice images. It's interesting because you said that you didn't want to get into. You said you didn't want to get into talking about sales. And yet now in this image, I see like a product sales, and you sold $9,000 in a given month. And I think that's great. I do worry that, I do worry about throwing those numbers out there. But, that's really up to you. The logos are fine. Again, here's where we're in this we've got components we could be using. Let's use those. Our contribution, our products. Okay, so here's where we get into the products thing, and it's kind of the same issue that I have up here. Like this doesn't feel like it's not a screen. It's not really anything. It's just kind of like it's like a crop of a screen, but I can't really see the product. I really think up high, this needs to be product. And I'm gonna sit here and just kind of crop on this for a second, because I really believe that like the product that you should be showing is like that. And so much of me wants to go, yeah, just turn it. Just turn it, blow it up, and like use it. Now, I would like to get rid of the shadow thing down here, like you've got some products hanging out to the side. But when you look at that, that gives me an idea of what you were actually selling. And I didn't really get that from looking at the Amazon page for Silicandy. So that's kind of how I would present that. And even if you don't know exactly what it is, it's pretty clear that there's some sort of physical product. There's like a repetition of shape. There's something going on there. As we go down, I might encourage you to bring these down in size. They feel pretty large at the moment, but that's really up to you. When we come down, I didn't mind this, the way this was being presented. I did kind of wonder if like this 1 trillion here shouldn't be over here with the other numbers. Just something to think about. We've talked about this graphic down here. Those logos are the logos. The big thing is like, what are we doing here? What are we doing on this particular page? And so much of this is, it's going to come down to how it's displayed. Like, is this going to work or isn't this going to work? It's all about how it is displayed and how it's displayed on hover, frankly. So if we come in, right now I've got view cookie stamps, and I've got to take a beverage break. One moment. All right. Whew. People checking in. Tejil won't be doing much today. Have a work deadline. That's fine. Kara's in survival mode, but she's busting through. I can sense Kara is feeling better. And Shane Williams, we are all team Shane Williams. Mom's going through some health issues. Health issues strike us all, no question. But we're pulling for Shane and James, and we're pulling for James and James's puppy. So everybody's fighting through a little something this morning. Let's get right back to it. So with this, I don't necessarily feel like you have to include all the variations off to the side. I want to simplify it, and if it hasn't struck anybody that I talk about simplification a lot, I talk about simplification a lot. So let's look at this. Let's look at a few different ways that we could show this information. So one, you could do it as you have it. All right. So you've got it like this, and that's fine. Let's take the same concept, because this does seem to be one of the harder ones. Let's take the same concept. I'm just going to lead away the sides. I'm going to make this larger to where it aligns. I'm going to say crop. And actually I should have, yeah, so we'll crop. And that's not very good. Like maybe that's a little better. The thing I typically would do in these instances is I typically would come in and maybe let's remove the image, let's add a fill, let's multiply that down, maybe pick up a color of some sort. So now we've got like this bright red over the top of it, and you know, I think if you're gonna pick a color, maybe it should be the purple. So instead of the red, let's pick up the purple. That's actually part of the design. So there's the purple, right? And you know, from here, what I might do is I might come back in. First of all, let's copy over another set. All right, so now we've got this image, and I'm going to make it the same size. And I'm also going to copy that purple, and I'm going to bring it right to the front. Eventually. There's so many things here. All right, so there's the purple, there's the dark purple, there's the other. You know, what I might do here is I might say 50, just to give it some sort of variation. And then, you know, the question is, how do we come in here and really talk about these? You could put, you know, a button on top. You know, that would be allowable. Although I can't really see it, so this is where I probably would come back in and I would say, okay, you're going to be white and you're going to be 80, and you're probably also going to just be a little larger. And now the question is, okay, so if I've got this design, you know, one problem I've got with it is that having the two-tone purple, you know, I am going to feel compelled to alternate this, which by in and of itself isn't bad. The problem that we get into here is if this is a grid and I'm not paying attention to where the alterations are happening, when I go down in size, I'm going to get things that stack together rather than rather than alternating. So I might not want to do it that way. What I might actually want to do is just use a little bit of space between them. So like use a grid gap in CSS Grid, and just put a little space between them, and then come back and say, hey, you know what, that's 100, and it's 100 in all the instances. Let's talk about what happens when I click on one of these. So if I clicked, like perhaps that goes to nothing, and this goes to let's give this rectangle a fill, and perhaps the fill is that purple, and the background for the text is white. So on click, the button itself changes the purple, and the image goes white. If you can imagine what that would look like, let's just copy these over. And yes, I could build a quick prototype of this if we wanted to, but I am trying to just get us. So essentially it'd be like this sort of dynamic. So you're using the silly candy color to unify these really oddly shaped product shots. There's like odd crops and things to work with, but then on click, like it goes white. It gives you some feedback to tell you that, oh, I'm clicking on this thing and I'm going to go somewhere else. This isn't the only way you could do it, but I do think that it is one of the safest ways to move forward with this, because you've got a lot of products here, and I do want to see some like uniformity to it, so that everything doesn't feel like it has its own feel. I want to put it all in a box that's similar. And again, you don't have to use the grid gap idea. That was just one thing I had in my back pocket, saying in the event that you've got yourself in a situation where these things are all running together and you're worried about it, you can use a little grid gap between. But I really think it's these hover transitions that are really going to matter. And again, you can crop this all you want, and don't crop it that much. And don't crop it that way either. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, and you can also zoom between the two. Like when you hover it, it's like it zooms in or it zooms out. Like having a little bit of animation on that hover would be another idea. So I just want to check the loop. Yeah, that's my 2 cents there. And we've kind of talked about the percentages. We've talked about these product pages, and I think once you have this sorted out, and I would again encourage you to, use CSS Grid for this. Leverage CSS Grid really for all these things. There's no reason like this. These are simple. I talk about these things in terms of call left, call right. Where's the emphasis? The emphasis is on the left here. The emphasis is on the right here. The emphasis is on the left here. The emphasis is on the right. The emphasis is on the left. The emphasis is on the right. The emphasis is even. Okay, these are really simple CSS Grid Legos to work with. So I think you're in a good spot, Rebecca. I do think that really it comes down to how are you treating these images down here. I gave you a couple of ideas. I'm super excited to see what you come up with. All right. So I'm just checking things over. We got Melanie, we got Eve, we got Rebecca, and I think we're good. So with that, remember, Portfolio Potluck's coming up at noon, so that's like 2 hours from now. I'll post a link into the Discord community channel so you can watch along if you'd like. And otherwise, hey, have a great weekend. I hope to see lots and lots and lots of work from each of you. I hope Monday's feedback loop is just insane. Also, be on the lookout. I've got some new videos that will be that are in the editing process. I hope to release them. I wanted to release them earlier this week, but I didn't. So I'm hoping to get those out this weekend. So without further ado, Chris Courtney, thanks for joining me on the feedback loop, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.